Coming up on TekThing, Lightning headphones. We're talking life without an audio jack. Is Chrome remote desktop safe? Laptop motherboard swaps, lag time, and DIY salad. All coming up on TekThing. If you get something useful out of this episode of TekThing, please consider contributing to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. We're brought to you by viewers just like you. Thank you so much.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every single show.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah, we are.
It's been well, okay. I don't know if the next thing is the most useful segment.
I like this segment,
Okay.
though. Okay, so is the headphone jack on smartphones a dead jack walking? That's
Yes.
the big question here. It's starting to look that way on the high end. Motorola's shown off the Moto Z, which will use a USB-C adapter to connect your headphones. They're not the first Android device to drop a headphone jack, but it's certainly a very high-profile one. Meanwhile, all of the rumors about the iPhone 7, those suggest that it will drop the jack and require users to connect headphones via the audio jack. So what does this mean for us? That's pretty serious. So Patrick's actually been testing Audeze's new SINE headphones and their optional Cipher Lightning cable. How's it going, sir?
It's been interesting. So
Yeah,
this is
okay.
not the first time I've played around with Lightning audio. For example, one of the earliest products we reviewed way in the early days of the show, that's the IDSP from High Resolution Technologies.
Yeah.
And that, you may notice, is essentially a USB adapter for the Lightning connector. And a lot of people have used these, connect all sorts of different USB DACs to the phones. And before we go any deeper, did I mention I've got a pile of monoprice earbuds coming in?
Yay!
We
Inexpensive headphones.
Yeah, they cost less than a CD
That's
for
awesome.
review. We have a show full of bargain tech coming in a couple of weeks, a $44 gaming keyboard, cheap earbuds, and we'd love to hear your suggestions.
Yay!
Although I will say, a lot of people have been looking at me going, how can I get my internet cheaper?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's always a big problem. You know what I do? I call my internet every single year and I ask them to put me on the same deal as the last year before. And I'm just like, keep me on the same deal, I'll stay with you. And they're like, okay.
That works better for you than it works for a lot of other people.
It might be the girl voice, that might be what it is.
Certainly not working for me. In any case, these are Audeze's SINE on-ear planar magnetic headphones. So planar magnetic, we've talked about these. There's essentially an 80 by 70 millimeter planar magnetic driver inside of this. So that basically means there's a thin piece of material and magnets, and there's printed circuits essentially, or like essentially kind of printed wires on this incredibly thin material.
Cool.
And this whole plane of material vibrates, moves the air towards your earbuds. These things are shockingly light for planar magnetics, like 230 grams. A big part of that is Audeze's design, what they call a single-sided fluxor magnetic array, which essentially means that instead of having magnets on both sides of that super thin piece of material,
Yeah.
they put the magnets on one side.
Oh.
And that's a big thing that helps reduce the weight. So we're looking at these, right, and they're on-ear headphones. They sound shockingly good for on-ear headphones, though if your ears are smaller than my giant jug handles, they might actually go all the way over them. Much like Kef's M500's on-ear headphones, they offer much more low-end response and a bigger sound stage than you'd normally expect for on-ear headphones, or maybe most of the on-ear headphones I've listened to have just sucked. These have an incredibly broad soundstage, more open, excellent bass.
Cool.
And hey, given that the Kefs run $300 and the SINEs cost $450 without the optional Lightning cable, they should. For what it's worth, $450 is not super expensive for planars, and it's downright cheap for Audeze. They make headphones that cost thousands of dollars.
Oh, wow.
That said, if you want to try the planar experience without dropping a rent payment, Fostex's T50RP will give you much of the experience in terms of sort of the high-end response and stuff for $160. Though they're tough to drive, the Fostexes are very difficult to drive from the jack on your headphones. That's something you should be aware of.
Cool.
You won't get super loud out of them. It's not like crazy bass head rock.
Good to know.
And the Fostexes, they're not going to feel as nice on your head or offer that high-end sports car feel wrapped around your face. SINE's industrial design comes from DesignWorks or BMW Group. These are luxurious. Protein leather, which isn't leather, but feels like leather and not like
Protein
pleather.
leather.
It's a thing. It's basically
Apparently.
faux fabric. You probably have protein leather shoes. They just don't call
Probably
them that. There's really nice, clean design. I think the only place they cut any corners is the fact that they put a little fabric travel sack inside the bag instead of a hard case.
Oh.
So the big thing, though, is this. This is the Cipher 24-bit high-resolution Lightning cable. So essentially, it's a 24-bit amp, DSP, and DAC. So headphone amplifier, digital signal processor, and digital analog converter.
Okay.
And it's also got a Siri-compatible microphone all stuffed in this cable. It upsamples.
Is there an audio version for Android?
Nobody makes a USB-C cable, audio cable, that I've been able to find. No one. I have not seen, I already take it back. There's like.
It's only Siri though. I can't use that with like an Android phone.
Well, here's the thing, right? If you want to use these with an Android phone, you use the standard,
okay. It does come with
jack,
standards.
Right? Comes with a standard headphone jack.
Okay.
The Cipher, Lightning cable is a $50 additional.
Gotcha.
The thing about this, right, is there's going to be Lightning, and there's Type-C USB, which is going to be on most of the Android devices.
Yep.
There's at least one company out there making Type-C USB headphone jacks.
One company.
But they're basically an obscure Chinese cell phone manufacturer that you probably have never heard of. Great article on Tested. I'll link to on the show notes that talks about them. So the Cipher cable upsamples all the audio to 24-bit, which I was concerned about. And it was really interesting is they actually offer a iOS app.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the iOS app, along with the Lightning cable, has a 10-band equalizer, which is set for the Harman audio response curve, which gives you a little extra bass and trims the 16K band a bit. Not that I can hear 16,000 hertz anymore. But some folks do think these are a little crisp on the high end.
Okay.
You can also zero the EQ, and it also does two really interesting things. The EQ settings that you choose, your custom EQ settings, are actually saved in the cable.
No way.
So you can plug
That's
this into
cool.
any device and get your EQ settings. And if you use the iOS app to update the firmware for the cable, if there are firmware updates.
Okay, that's neat.
Yeah, firmware cable updates. I just want to let that sink in. In any case, the DAC, amp, and DSP built into this $50 cable are superb, which is no mean feat given the size.
Yeah.
I'm a little less worried about audio quality over USB-C or Lightning than I might be. But frankly, I'm sure there are going to be adapters or headphones that do a better job than others. I would be really...
It's so weird.
Yes. Yes, it is. I don't know. I would be leery of Lightning or USB-C headphones that are hardwired for the jack. Because, these, if you break the cable or if you want to use a standard headphone jack, you unplug.
You have that ability.
Yeah, the Cipher cable, and you plug in the other cable. If your headphones are hardwired to the jack, you won't be able to use them on other devices.
Yeah,
and hey,
true.
the cables and wear out and break. My biggest concern, Lightning or USB-C, I want to be able to charge the phone while I listen. USB-C has options for power input. You can do a split cable for that. We have no idea what Apple might offer with the iPhone 7 with the Lightning cable. Or what USB-C adapters for audio might offer when they actually start shipping. Look, we made it through the transition to RS-232 from USB, from VGA to HDMI DisplayPort, and it can be incredibly irritating. I expect short-term pain, long-term acceptance, and a lot more phones without audio jacks in 2017, or a lot of emails from you all that basically say, who uses headphones with a smartphone?
I do on an airplane with noise reduction technology, and it saves my life, especially when there's babies.
Bluetooth?
Yes. Well, no, it was actually like audio into the headphone jack, no Bluetooth.
It's interesting. There are Bluetooth options. I hate charging headphones. I find it incredibly annoying.
Yeah, I do too.
In any
but
case.
it happens. We will see, and I'm really interested to see where this technology goes, and if it's an actual thing in the future, like no headphone jacks.
CES
it seems like it's going to.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we're gonna see. So give us your thoughts. Let us know what you think about anti-headphone jacks. Ask at TekThing.com, and of course, you can always tweet us personally at Patrick Norton and at Snubs.
Doc53 emails, Shannon, you talk a lot about using VPNs when one is away from home, i.e. free hotel internet. For the average person, setting up a VPN is daunting and can be expensive. I use OpenVPN for my business, but with the help of an IT friend. I can do basic maintenance, but would never be able to set it up by myself. I use a Chromebook and Chrome remote desktop. At home, I can be watching TV and working on my main home desktop computer. In a hotel, I used to check my email and work on projects stored on the home computer. Chrome remote desktop is quick and easy to use. Am I fooling myself in thinking I am protected? Is Chrome Remote Desktop an RDP or VPN? It has AES encryption. What is your opinion of Chrome Remote Desktop?
Thank you, Doc53. Yeah. Nice name, by the way. Use with caution. That would be my main point.
Yes.
Just use with caution.
The international sign of beware.
Somebody's going to make that into an animated GIF. So luckily, Chrome Remote Desktop is encrypted. It does require 2 authentications, so you're going to need your Google account and a special PIN code. But you are also opening up a port on the computer that you want to access, and the default for Chrome Remote Desktop and pretty much every other remote desktop is TCP port 3389. Right. Why I know that is because I'm kind of geeky and I do scan for open ports, because that's what people do when you do a hacker show. So this could become an issue if someone is able to get all three, the port, the PIN, and your Google account. It's incredibly easy for somebody to scan for open ports too. It's like really, really easy to scan for open ports on any known network.
People do it all the time.
Yeah, so like oftentimes you'll find printers are on open ports, and then printers get hacked, and then through the printer somebody can access an entire network. Like, it's totally possible. And if they see port 3389 is open, by using a little bit of social engineering or brute forcing and maybe guessing your PIN, they could get in. So far, CRD, which I'm using for Chrome Remote Desktop for short, it hasn't been compromised, but that's not to say that it won't be in the future. So keep in mind that a computer with Chrome Remote Desktop installed will have access to any other computer that you've set it up on under the same Google account, as long as they have that PIN. So keep that in mind, especially if you've set it up so that if from one remote laptop you have that connected to your home PC and you've decided to never put in that PIN code every time you connect in the future, that means that anybody with access to that laptop would have that connection available to that home PC. So that PIN code, make sure you have to put it in every single time. A CRD is an RDP, not a VPN. An RDP is Remote Desktop Protocol, which was made by Microsoft, and it is used for remote desktops. So basically, it lets you access the graphical desktop of another computer. RDPs are really, really fast. They're very reliable. They're easy to set up. TeamViewer is one, LogMeIn is another, but they are also not as secure as VPNs. VPNs, or virtual private networks, which a lot of companies, including like Citrix, they have VPNs set up with RDPs. They allow you to connect through a secure network from one server all the way to another, not necessarily providing the graphical desktop interface that an RDP does. So VPNs are slower than RDPs, but you can use an RDP inside of a VPN. So you're getting that secure VPN tunnel while accessing that graphical desktop interface with an RDP inside of it.
When you say RDPs are slower than VPNs, because I've been on stupid fast VPNs, like where it was over a corporate backbone or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you just mean that RDPs will access a desktop faster than going through a VPN?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
I think it's because of that additional encryption that VPNs come with.
Okay.
So that's going to slow it down. It's going to give you a little bit of lag. But for the most part, especially if you're on a fast connection, like we live in California, we don't have that issue. But in the Midwest, where like some of my family lives, they do have that issue a lot. So like I said before, it's incredibly easy to do a port scan against a network to find out which ports are open to the internet. And using an RDP would be opening up a port to the internet. So
you have to open up a port to use the internet.
You do.
For any application.
Yeah, like you have open ports on your router right now. So make sure that your data isn't being intercepted by using a VPN on top of it, which encrypts everything from point A all the way to point B. I did set up Chrome Remote Desktop on my computer at home, which I'm really nervous about because it's that open port, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to close it as soon as I get home. But it was very, very easy to do.
I think I understand with your hacker hat on. I totally understand your point of view. On the other hand, in your normal human being hat on, it is.
You're probably not going to run into an issue.
Well, like your devious teenager is probably more likely to social engineer this than random hacker out on the internet.
Very true.
And random hacker out on the internet is going to nail you to the floor if you make a mistake using the hotel Wi-Fi without VPN. So I would say RDP is a big step over using nothing. Remote desktop. I would say it is not the most secure option, but as long as you use the pins and are conscientious about that, I think you're probably.
And luckily, companies do set up both. You know, like I mentioned, Citrix. I just know that about past sponsorships on other shows. Yeah. But they do a VPN with RDP, so you can do the whole remote desktop thing, and it's cool. But if you are interested in how to set it up, it is very easy to set up. Chrome has this whole about website where you just download the app for your iPhone, iPad, Android phone, or tablet, or your computer, and then you have to go to this page called Chrome apps. So it's Chrome://apps, and this is where you'll find your remote desktop. You click on that, you choose the PC that you want to connect to, and you have to enter your PIN code. It's really long.
See, that would
and
be
you
bad.
Notice that it asked me if I want to use that PIN every single time. I'm going to leave, or not use it every single time. I'm going to leave that unchecked, so I have to put in my PIN code every time. And this is my home desktop. So I have this open at home, and I can open up Lightroom, which is where I was editing photos. This is terrible for my work environment because obviously I'm just going to be playing video games now that I can connect over Chrome Remote Desktop. But one thing I did notice that was nice about this is the fact that
I will say one thing about Chrome Remote Desktop is Google doesn't want to be hacked, and they spend money to try to eliminate the possibility of 0 days and to keep hackers and just to be as secure as possible, and that's a big plus. Is that 2 desktops?
It is. It shows multiple monitors. So I have 2 monitors at home, and you can see both of them, and I can work between the 2, which is great. And then you can also zoom in on one particular one if you'd like to. So I think that's pretty nice. And then if you choose to stop sharing, you just hit stop sharing at the bottom, and it will disconnect you, and then you'll have to reconnect with your PIN code again. So for the most part, I also just real quick wanted to bring up this little mention. It's security.google.com. You can look up your recently used devices and see where they have connected recently, like the OnePlus that I reviewed last week. That's on here because I used my account for that. It's really important to go through here too and make sure that any devices that are connected are ones that you have permitted be connected. I'll put that link in the show notes as well.
If you see like a lot of, if the gullible person in the house has been using the computer and you suddenly see that somebody from like insert name of any basically place that is not where you have been, like, but that's the thing, like people use remote desktop tools. People go, well, I'm from Microsoft and we've got a problem with your Hassenpfeffer gear. We need to fix that. And somebody goes to my Hassenpfeffer gear, and then they actually literally let a stranger over the phone RDP into their computer, and then somebody basically has all the access to your computer, which sounds ridiculous, but it happens a lot.
It happens. It's totally possible. So it's very important.
Check to make sure you aren't being accessed from places where you haven't been.
Yes, exactly.
Or on devices you don't own.
So I know that I did not do a demo of how to set up a VPN with RDP, but let me know if you would like to see that. I believe I can do that with OpenVPN. I've never tried it before, but I would love to. So if you are interested, let me know in the comments below, or send me an email or a tweet at Snubs or at TekThing. And you can email us, ask@tekthing.com.
Hey everybody, we would love it if you sent us your tips, your ideas, or your questions. Ask@tekthing.com is the place, or you can tweet at Snubs or at Patrick Norton on Twitter. Hey, if you want to help make sure we can keep making the show for you, please contribute to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. Just $1 will make a difference, and thank you all for your patronage. You make the show possible. If you can't donate, we understand. If you could give our video the thumbs up on YouTube, like our Facebook page, there's so much news there, or review TekThing on iTunes or your fave podcatcher, we would really appreciate it because it all helps. Thank you so much for supporting TekThing, no matter how you do it.
3 questions answered, 3 reviews, 3 picks, all in 3 minutes. This week's Rapid Fire Roundup is a tweet from Kevin Wools, or KM Wools. He says, at Patrick Norton, at Snubs, what is a really good printer that is wireless and prints great and is inexpensive? Kevin also wants inkjet, not laser, a separate cartridge for black, and it has to be an all-in-one as well. Are you ready, Patrick, Mr. Printer Man?
I'm ready. Okay, first up, I want to call up Epson's EcoTank Super Tank printers. Not the cheapest price when you first buy it, the upfront cost, but most printer companies make money on the ink, a lot of money on the ink, not the printer. Epson's ET2500 is $280, and it comes with enough ink for 4,000 black pages or 6,500 color pages. I've been using its big sister, the EcoTank ET4550, which comes with enough ink for up to 11,000 black pages or 8,500 color pages. And unlike DIY ink tank systems I've used, it is super easy to refill ink from their resupply kits. If you print tons, you should really consider these because they reduce the ink cost considerably.
Okay. Next.
Yeah. 2. If you want to spend as little money up front, because you don't print constantly, you don't want to spend money, check out Canon's Pixma lineup. The MG5720 wireless inkjet all-in-one got PCMag's editor's choice and sells for $76 online. Just watch out for the ink cost. Each Canon branded like CMY cartridge, well, they're separate CMYK cartridges. They run about $12 each, $45 to $55 for a 5-pack with both black and the XL black cartridge.
Okay.
Not bad, but you know, if
kind of pricey.
It's the ink gets pricey.
The ink is pricey.
The ink gets pricey. While I was on PCMag, they also gave Brothers a $170 MFC J985DW WorkSmart all-in-one and editor's choice. I have had great luck with Brother laser printers over the years. PCMag notes it has slightly below par text and graphics, but offers unusually low running costs, which are unheard of in a printer at its price. That's a quote there, people. Brother says basically each of their cartridges is about 1,200 pages for each $13 CMY cartridge, 2,400 pages from the K or the black cartridge.
Cool, that's not bad.
Yeah, I just want to say that. Like, I think everybody knows it, but just in case, cheap printers usually make their money on the ink. More expensive printers may not ask or may not be pulling as much money over time. If you print like 3 pages a month, it probably doesn't make a difference unless you constantly dry out ink cartridges. But if you print constantly, that adds up.
Yeah, it does, real quick.
Really quick. If you got picks or if you want to suggest something for a rapid fire roundup.
Rapid fire round.
Rapid fire warge. Email ask@TekThing.com and we'll give it a shot.
We got an email from Carlos who writes in, at my mother-in-law, she lives out in the country in southern Arizona, zip 85629. She currently has HughesNet. The ping is anywhere from 600 to 800. Download is currently decent at 17 megabits per second, or megabytes per second, not sure which. Anyways, kind of limited on choices of internet. I'm afraid going to someone else might not make a difference. Thanks from Carlos in Green Valley.
Oh my goodness. So here's the thing about satellite internet. Some of them are fairly fast, but you tend to pay more for them. It's worth shopping around. In terms of speed though, right? Your packets are going from the computer up to the satellite, from the satellite back down to the internet where they receive everything, then out on the internet to the server you actually want something from, then back up to the satellite, from the satellite back down to the computer. And that trip to the satellite is around 22,000 miles each way.
Oh, that's not far at all.
So that cat GIF traveled 88,000 miles, plus however far it traveled over the actual internet from their server to the server to the server. So in that sense, 600 milliseconds does sound kind of fast now.
Isn't that like 6 seconds?
No, 600 milliseconds, so there'd be 0.6 seconds.
0.6, oh, okay.
0.6 seconds.
Okay.
6,000 milliseconds, that should be 6 seconds.
Okay.
Any case, ground-controlled global satellite communications, they basically pride themselves on delivering super fast, high-speed internet. It says, quote, the theoretically fastest possible ping time over a geostationary satellite would be 476 milliseconds, or just under half a second.
Whew.
So again, your mother-in-law's ping time probably isn't that bad for a satellite. Not going to work for first-person shooters. And in terms of 17 megabits or 17 megabytes, that's a big difference. And I would suggest, running a speed test on that, and then taking a look at what comparable satellite services are offering in terms of bandwidth. I would also say, based on some family members that live out in places where they will never ever get a cable or a cell phone, or cable or a cell phone. Wow, actually, cell phone might be worth checking, but it's usually too expensive because of the amount of gigabytes it costs. But man, usually when there's a new satellite provider, there's it's faster, and then a whole bunch of people sign up for it, and then the sort of bandwidth per person kind of drops down.
Aww.
So investigate, but it's probably is what it is and not going to change that much. Bob just blew me away with an idea for upgrading Andrew's laptop with a new CPU. We talked about that last week. Bob wrote in, I think he gave Andrew an incomplete answer. His Dell Inspiron CPU is replaceable, but he has to replace the system board. The nice thing about the Dell Inspiron, while not as pretty as an ultra-thin, it's designed to be totally user serviceable. The directions for replacing the system board are in the owner's manual and are step-by-step straightforward. The real question is the upgrade to an i5 for a 41% performance increase for $200 and i7 for a 58% increase for $300 worth it. There will also be an increase in GPU from the integrated Intel Graphics 4000 to the AMD Radeon HD 7670M or the AMD Radeon HD 8730M. That's about 80% faster, although I am not sure about which GPU. They benchmark about the same. The memory on the 3521 is upgradable to 16 gigabytes.
And that was from Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, so and then you look at it's here it is, all the instructions.
Cool.
The Inspiron the owner's manual actually has all of the information for that. I asked Bob where he was getting those prices on the motherboard. He said you can get system boards from Amazon Marketplace vendors or eBay, and they are probably going to be used. On eBay, he says you have to be very careful. I've used JK Computer Parts in the past, and they have 80,000 plus reviews, 99% positive.
Wow.
That's impressive. I would suggest if Andrew has no or little experience upgrading a desktop, he skipped trying to upgrade a laptop. Well, I won't hesitate or do this upgrade, and would also tell my non-techie friends to buy a new laptop.
Cool. Well, thanks, Bob. Yeah, that was great.
That was awesome.
And lastly, Pete sent us an interesting question, and I would love for y'all to answer, or to help us answer this question for him. Patrick and Shannon, I am a very proud contributor of the show and a very long-time fan of you both. As for my question, I am looking for some kind of backup for my primary internet connection. While it has been very reliable over the years, I have had a few issues like their power brick failing. They had a bad batch several times, of course, over a long holiday weekend, and even a modem failure, and most recently a power surge that took out their battery backup unit. Yikes. Ouch. I own a weather station and my data is uploaded to major organizations and also to my local TV station, so I like to ensure my data is getting out properly. I am looking for some kind of a backup solution for my primary connection and was thinking something cellular would be nice. Do you have any suggestions for something relatively inexpensive? My firewall has multiple WAN connections and supports failover, failback, so I am thinking I just need some kind of cellular router. From Pete.
I love this question. I constantly use the AT&T broadband on my phone, but only connected to a single computer. I'm kind of curious how you would connect mobile broadband to a network or a remote device. If you got suggestions, we'd love to hear them. Ask at TekThing.com. Pete's also looking for a good way to back up a 30 terabyte NAS and is wondering if tape is the only option without spending hundreds of dollars a month.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh my goodness.
It can get pretty pricey pretty quick. Ooh, NASes.
Ask at TekThing.com. Well, a second NAS?
A second NAS.
A
there
second
you go. And remember, it's about that time again. Once in a while, put down your phone, step away from the screen, close the laptop, and do something analog, like Peter's choice. And he wrote us, Shannon and Patrick, here is something analog. Salad, specifically growing your own salad. But I can't say salad greens. Take a look from Peter. He's growing some red lettuce there.
It's so pretty.
That looks delicious. See, we record around lunchtime, so anytime somebody sends us a picture of food, I'm like, oh, I would eat that.
Now I'm like thinking about dandelion greens.
Ooh, yeah. Is that good?
Yes.
Sounds good.
It can be incredibly bitter.
Thank you for the picture, Peter. And of course, if you guys have an analog pick, we have another one coming up next week from you guys. You can always send them to us, ask@tekthing.com. We love to show what everybody else is doing out there analog-y.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing.
He's funny.
We garden.
I try to garden.
You should start keeping chickens.
You're so funny. Why?
Because fresh eggs.
Well, I could take care of chickens.
Probably.
I used to have a duck.
You can keep a cat alive. You probably.
I had like 3 ducks. Yeah.
Although a cat will do better without people involved.
The cat might try to eat the chicken.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you to everybody for supporting us on Patreon. You can get your name up here by becoming a Patreon. Patron. On the Patreon.
Math is hard.
Patron.
Patreon.
Patron. I know words.
Words. Oh my
Words is hard.
I'll just nod my head yes. Oh my goodness. Thanks everybody. We will see you next week.